I express on this channel many opinions. You may agree with some of them, you may disagree with them. And that's the beauty of this. We all should, in theory, have a bit of an open mind and be able to listen to other people's opinions. And sometimes the opinions that I share on this channel come from perhaps some of my correspondence. And today's will be something that somebody said to me only this morning, and I thought, well, that's great. Let's share that idea and see what you make of it. Our opinions, of course, are formed as we're young by our mums and dads, our teachers, our friends, as we go through life. And those opinions give us a sort of an idea of how to think. But as we get older and we mature, we start to change those opinions. Perhaps we push back. Perhaps we think, actually, what I used to think is completely wrong. For example, some people may be brought up in a religious family and they've been, I don't want to use the word indoctrinated, but they have been formed to have an opinion about a certain religion, and they follow the creeds and everything else. And then they find, actually, as they get older, they think, actually, I don't believe all of this. I think that's wrong. And they perhaps find another religion, or they give up religion altogether. Or alternative, the reverse is true, that they have had no religion whatsoever. And then they come to, say, a religion, and perhaps they look at different religions. We all change our mind, and that's something that I think is absolutely crucial in this world. The ability to U-turn or add to our opinions, to form our ideas on where things are going. And I, like so many other, I'm sure, YouTubers have come up with something, said something we've believed in, and then I thought, you know what, some weeks later, I'm not sure that I got that right. Maybe I over-egged something, or maybe my opinion has changed. On my show, I have a whole load of guests, as you know, and they come in with knowledge and information, and I sit there like a nodding dog listening to them and thinking, that's interesting. Having an open mind to listen to somebody else's opinion, even if you don't know whether you agree with it or you disagree with it, being open to somebody else's opinion is very important, I think, because if you are closed off, you don't know, you may miss some very vital stuff which later on you may change your opinion too. We should be as open as possible. It doesn't mean we have to accept everything and believe everything. And so I think opinions and being able to express them and share them is very important, which is why meeting people in public places, in pubs and cafes, the stand in the park, meeting in village halls, discussing things is absolutely vital, particularly in these days when we've seen censorship coming down. And it's very easy to be somebody who is a dyed-in-the-wool type opinion person when it comes to the, let's say, the Telegram groups or the WhatsApp groups or the little forums that are out there. Meeting people in the flesh, when people can question you and say, well, why do you think that? Because very often we don't know why we think something. So today I had a correspondence from somebody who said, I think the rot set in the 60s when we started to lose our manners and we lost that sense of dress, our dress sense. And I thought that's a very interesting thing. Now, I'm not sure I 100% believe or agree with it, let's say, but I do think manners seems to have disappeared. We've gone through a whole load of wokeism, haven't we? Where now, as a man, you know, if you open the door for a woman, you get a scowl saying, well, I'm perfectly able to open the door myself. I don't need your help. And you say, well, I'm just trying to be helpful. And it can be very difficult. Certain people can find what they've believed in all their life, particularly the older people who have seen the culture types of changes, have said, well, I always was brought up to say please and thank you, or not to swear in front of children or senior people. And now you see people swearing left, right and centre and children answering back. Used to have a certain respect for the police. And you don't see very much of that these days. Maybe a lot of that is the police have brought that onto themselves because of their somewhat tyrannical policy. We don't have that much respect for councillors and the government, of course. But again, I think they may have brought that on themselves because they seem to think that they are above us and want to control us. And of course, we know now that these are all dead entity corporations and not public authorities that they once used to be, or at least pretended to be. And so things have changed, and we change with it. I do think there is a place for good manners. I do think there is a place to be respectable to one another and think, should I use F words or C words in front of different people? And as you know, I don't really swear very much. That's not to say I actually don't swear at all. I do, but if I do swear, I like to use it to underline something, to make a point. But if you're using it all the time, if that's part of your language, then you're not able to punctuate your dialogue very easily. And of course, I read a lot of books, and so I like to try and use as many different words as I can to express myself, which helps, I think, to get over the points that I want to make, rather than having a very limited and narrow language. And I do see emails coming in, and a lot of people cannot seem to express themselves or don't have very much grammar, or and I'm not blaming anybody for that, but we have to take back responsibility for ourselves. So I do think manners are important, but what about this idea of dressing up in a more respectable way? And the correspondent said, that might mean wearing gloves and hats and wearing a certain type of style. Well, on that note, I think everybody should be free, absolutely free, to dress and express themselves however they damn well like. There seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. I don't know if you've noticed it with cars. There's this horrible grey. It's not gunmetal grey. It's a sort of sludge grey that seems to be coming in a lot of new cars. Perhaps you have one. To me, it seems a shame that people are buying cars that are driving on the public roads that are very drab and dull and miserable looking, like sludge grey, instead of expressing themselves in a more colourful way and saying, look, I'm here. Now, I appreciate not everybody wants to draw attention to themselves, but it is nice to be able to express yourself, not because you want to do it for the ego, hey, look at me, but because it's part of you. This is me, and nobody's going to control me. I am a free man. I live the way I want to. I don't live in a tyrannical society. Well, of course, we all live in a tyrannical society. Let's face it, they're putting up the 5G, they've got the surveillance everywhere. But one way that we can push back is not acquiesce to the sort of drab, drone-like society that clearly they want us to be, and that is to dress however we see fit. I often dress in a sort of somewhat vintage style. Today I'm wearing a sort of 40s tank top, and I like my cravat, as you know. And talking of hats, I do have a series of hats that occasionally I wear. This one is a nice hat. I often turn up at places in this. I think it is very lovely. And I enjoy smoking a pipe as well, which has a certain look and feel. As you know, I smoke because I've now discovered that tobacco is not the evil as it's been made out in the past, and actually the nicotine, not being addictive as we've been told, it's the stuff they shove in it, is actually there to, the nicotine, because we have nicotine receptors in us, disrupts a certain medical intervention that many people have had, or are frightened of the shedding, or perhaps they're dropping it now from the sky, or they pumped it into the water, or even in the food. So that's why I enjoy a pipe. But yes, that's one of the hats I like. Being somebody from the theatrical background, I quite enjoy wearing a different type of hats. My Farmer Piles type hat. Hello there, I'm Farmer Piles. Nice to see you. Where's my little sheepdog? Come on then, Bessie. Where are you? And I like to express myself in lots of different ways. And I used to be quite nervous about going out into the public wearing hats. Now I embrace it. I am who I am, and you have to like it or lump it. I don't want to be offensive, but I'm not saying, hey, look at me. I'm just expressing myself. Here's a hat that I haven't worn terribly much, but I quite like this. Again, it's a sort of vintage style. It's quite jolly. You imagine me on the golf course, not that I play golf, of course, but it is, but people used to wear this sort of stuff. They were free to wear these kind of clothes. It was fun. I think we should have a bit more fun with our dress sense and how we go about. the corporations are dictating to us the type of clothes that we have in the department stores. Fashion very much says you should be wearing this. Influencers, God forbid that I'm an influencer, are telling us what we should be wearing, and people are falling for it and going, oh yes, I must copy the Kardashians or whoever it is on their social media platforms. I think we should be free, of course, to wear what we damn well like and be comfortable in what we like, whether that's expressing our masculinity or our femininity, our preference for certain different periods in history, or whether we're just, doing whatever we like. No one should be telling us, oh, hang on a minute, I'm the fashion police telling you what you should and shouldn't wear. Final hat that I have, I don't wear this too much, actually getting a bit fluffy now, it's a sort of trilby look I quite like. I quite like that. Maybe in the autumn, now that we're coming into it, I can do that with the old pipe. I do like the 1940s style. That is me. For me, it was a time before the rot came in. People spoke nicely. I say, absolutely. For me, it is my time. I don't know why. Maybe I lived in the 40s. I was born actually in the 60s, but maybe there is something about the 40s that resonates with me. A certain sense of politeness and a certain sense of stiff upper lip. Stoicism, I suppose you might call it these days. I don't know, but everybody should be free if they want to be clean shaven or have a shaggy beard, whatever it is, be influenced by different cultures. Although these days, of course, if you wear a Mexican hat because you're embracing a Mexican lifestyle, people would say, if you're not from Mexico, that of course is cultural inappropriation, you shouldn't be wearing it. It's like, oh my goodness, we should be free to dress and express ourselves how we like, provided we're not being too, what should we say, offensive. People obviously take offence, but if you're swearing and effing and jeffing in front of them, maybe moderate one's language a bit, but be free to express yourself. Add some colour to this world, the colourless world that the corporations who are taking it over seem to be wanting us down this narrow channel of thought where we can't test or question the science that they follow with their net zero policies and global warming and all this sort of rubbish. And let's express ourselves in a fun way with colour and vitality and high vibration. Another way to at least feel that we are free.